Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. As you can see, today we're trying a new format. So we're trying video. We'll see what gives. A few things I want to mention before we start the theme in no particular order. The first one being we're doing it in English today. We've done an episode in English before. Some episodes are in French. The language, and I think this is the last time we'll say it. I'd like to say this is the last time we'll say it, but the language goes according to what I pick to talk in. So what language do I want to use to talk about this subject? That's the language we're using. You can choose whichever language between English and French suits you in the subtitles. Another thing I want to address, as you can see, I'm wearing my glasses. It's on purpose. It's on purpose because I want you to see what it looks like. So I've been talking about it. I've been saying that I see double, my vision has changed. So what does that mean? Well, it means that things are different for me. That's all it means. But the reason I want to show it is because we talk about difference in the podcast. We talk about different kinds of handicaps, visible, invisible. And this is, I'm going to say, a subject that comes up often. People notice it, which is completely normal. But people make comments, which is less normal. And I'm not going to get into the comments. Mireille laughs every single time I tell her about them because they are inappropriate. But people, and this has been going on for 4 years. And people, and when I say people, I will mention cashiers have made comments, stewardesses have made comments, people in hotels have made comments, guests, people that I don't know have made comments. People make comments. I'm just going to explain it. I'm sorry. I think I'm jumping the gun. So I'm just going to explain it. And I've said it before, my vision has changed. So I see double. So if I take them off, I see you twice. And as you can imagine, you can't really go through the world by seeing double. Imagine cutting carrots, seeing double. Good luck with that. So one eye has to be, I see on both eyes, but one eye has to be blocked, shaded, so that I only see from one eye. So what does that do? Essentially, when you see with two eyes, you see in 3 dimensions. When you see with one eye, you see in 2 dimensions. So depth is not easy. Depth is not easy. I've had to get used to it. We've chosen the right eye. I could have chosen the left eye. We've chosen the right eye for whatever medical reasons. But I've had to get used to most everything. And even now, anything that requires depth is a challenge. So parking, obviously I've had to get used to it, but it's still a challenge, etc. Here's a funny story around it. I go to this outdoor training activity. So I go to this activity twice a week, and it's the same women on both days. And there's 5 or 6 of us. 4 or 5 or 6, depending on the days. So at the end, and the leader is my kinesiologist, who's known me since 2.5 years. So when she met me, I was in a quadruped cane. I was using a quadruped cane. She's one of the reasons that I'm walking without a cane today. So she's known me for a long time. She knows my whole story. She knows everything. She knows about the eyes and everything. So, and in the activity, at the end, there's a game. There's a game. And the game often involves balls. Small balls, bigger balls, balls. So obviously we're throwing them balls. And she started doing this. She's done this a few times. She started doing this where we start the game. And then she goes, okay, now everyone close one eye. And we're going to do it like Monia sees it. And everyone's like, what? What do you mean? Every time, like we did it last week. I think it was the 4th or 5th time. But still, and these women have known me for a while now. And they're like, the reaction is always, what? What do you mean? So we do the games, and then they close one eye, and then every single time, the reaction is the same. Are you serious? Is that really it? Are you serious? And I laugh. The trainer laughs also because we've done it many times. Yes, I am serious. And then there's a whole discussion of, oh, but what do you do when you do this? What do you do when you do that? So anyways, all this to say that I'm wearing my glasses today. If you see me on the street, you won't recognize me, and that's fine. So that's the thing I wanted to talk about. Another thing I wanted to talk about before we continue is I feel we talk about many subjects that are not necessarily, people don't use all the time. So we're talking about energy management. Today we're going to talk about self-awareness. We're talking about all these different subjects and strategies. And then we say, oh, you just need to do this and you just need to do that. And I just want to repeat, we've said it and I'll say it every time. It's easy for me to talk about them because I've been using them for a while. So I am not expecting, no one is expecting, and you yourself should not expect for it to be easy. You have to give yourself time, you have to give yourself grace. And I mean, I've had the strategies I used to use before everything happened. The energy management, I did it when I returned to work. And I had time to get to know these tools. So when I was returning to work, I was, on a progressive return, which was very long. It took 7 months, but like I could take the time to look at the tool and get to know the tool and see how it's useful to me. So whenever we present things to you, give yourself grace. Don't let the perfect ruin the good. You're not looking for perfect. You're looking for good enough, and you're looking for something to help you. So don't feel stressed. It's okay if you take it up, leave it down, take it up again, switch it around. All of that is okay. Give yourself grace.
Why self-awareness?
Why self-awareness? Because it comes up all the time, whether I'm coaching, whether I'm mentoring, whether I'm talking with friends. It comes up all the time. And it is so useful because it came up again in a mentoring session. And I've mentored men, women, all different kinds of men and women, all different men and women at different hierarchical levels. And it's come up all the time. And it's come up with my friends. It's come up with everyone. So I think it's a very useful subject. You talk about the foundation of a house, how solid the foundation is. That's how you can build the house. That's how I feel about self-awareness. So this is part of your foundation, and you can build so many things on top of it.
What is self-awareness?
It can be everything, anything. It can be very wide, very narrow. So how I describe self-awareness is basically when you're waiting for an elevator and the doors open. You know if you can fit in that elevator or not, depending on how many people there are, depending on so many things. Can you fit in the elevator or not? Well, or a metro. I use the metro also because, when you try to get into the metro, do you fit in the metro or not comfortably? Are you going to bother people? Are you going to knock over people? Things like that. That's how I feel about self-awareness, in a sense that where do you fit in the world, in the way that you are, in the way that you think, in anything that you choose to look at. Because like I said, it can be very narrow or very wide. So in anything that you choose to look at, where do you fit in the world? So that's my definition of self-awareness.
And what do you do with the information?
Once again, anything and everything. So it can be personal curiosity, just getting to know yourself better. You can also use it basically, well, like I said, to exist in the world. So, and when I say self-awareness can be very wide, your values, like all these things can be included. So for example, if you have to make choices, any kind of choices, whether it be personal or professional, if your values, if you already know your values and you can define them, which I think is part of self-awareness, well, it's easier to make decisions. It gives you a compass. I find as you grow older, well, you have to make choices in all types of things. What kind of job do you want? What kind of people do you want to surround yourself with? You have your biological family and you have your logical family, but you get to choose your logical family. But how do you choose them? Well, it's all based on self-awareness.
And I think the most important thing is that it really helps you understand why you have the boundaries you have.
Well, yes, those boundaries should be part of the self-awareness. It is another step. It's not the first step, it's another step, but it should be part of your self-awareness. And I find there's much power in knowing the why of what you choose and what you do. So when I'm talking about values, when you're talking about boundaries, and I'll give you an example. Like, I'm going to say in all humility, I'm good at setting boundaries now. If I set a boundary with Mireille, that doesn't mean that Mireille will understand why I'm setting this boundary. But if I know why, first of all, it's much easier to stand strong in it. And second of all, it's much easier to have a discussion with Mireille about it. And what I like about self-awareness is it is self-awareness. It is not something someone told me to do, to be, to act.
And would you say it's a tool?
Big time. And we all know how much I love tools and strategies. It's a huge tool. And I find it gives you so much power to everyone. To everyone, it gives you so much power. And I'm going to say, as a woman, it gives you a lot of power because society defines our roles very much at any age. It defines our roles very much depending on your situation. Are you married? Do you have kids? Do you have a house? Do you own a car? What kind of job do you have? What kind of salary do you have? Society defines these rules of who we should be as women, much more than rules for men. But if you know who you are, if you know why you made those choices, if you know, it's easy to, I'm going to say defend, but it's not negative. It's easy to stand in your truth when you know why you chose that truth. And Mireille, that's a choice also. How do you want to define yourself? That's part of self-awareness. I want to be intègre. What does that mean to be intègre? I want to be brave. What does that mean? I want to be kind. What does that mean?
And so we're straying a little bit off, but getting back to it, what does the path to self-awareness look like?
It looks like curiosity of self. And that's a very small definition of a very big thing. A long time ago, I went to see a naturopath, naturopath, and whatever. In our discussion, she said, the more you know about yourself, the stronger you are. Whether it's your horoscope sign, your Chinese horoscope, your personality trait, your this, your that, all of these things. And that stuck with me. And I mean, it stuck with me to the point that I don't remember her name, but I remember her saying that. So that's for me, that's what self-awareness is. What can you know about yourself? So and I mean, it can be anything. There's all kinds of things that are based on your experience, on the situations you've lived, on the things you've been through, then on your values, on, as an adult, at some point, you get to choose who you want to be. As a kid, you follow what your parents say. As an adult, at some point, some people, you get to choose who you want to be. Well, that's part of your self-awareness. Like I said, I want to be courageous. I want to be kind. I want to be this. I want to be that. But what does that mean? So self-awareness is basically just gathering up as much information as possible about yourself.
And what do you feel you get out of self-awareness and the different exercises that come from understanding who you are?
For me, I'll say for me, but for everyone that I've spoken with, there's a sense of sureness. You're solid. You feel solid. You're sure. And I just want to specify, you're not sure in the sense that you're not ready to hear someone else's point of view. That's not what I mean. You're sure in the way that I've thought this through. I know who I am. I'm ready to talk about it. I'm ready to be challenged. And I find there's a very big strength in being sure of yourself. So the same way that I'll give you an example. If you've listened to my story, you know that I've had to learn how to walk. So on my path to walking, no pun intended, on my path to walking, one of the which I'm gonna laugh at it because I'm not gonna cry over it. So I had a long period of time where when I let go of the cane, when I let go of the last cane, I had a long period of time where I was scared that people would bump into me and knock me over. And it was in my head, it was very real. Okay? It was very, very real. In any type of situation outside on the street, the stores were the worst. But I was always scared that people would bump into me and I would topple over. And then you get into the whole I was scared because how am I going to get up? And getting up has been hard and all of these things. So while part of letting go of the cane was, where do I fit? How do I fit? My body had changed. My strength had changed. All these things had changed. At the same time, how do I walk? How solid am I? I had to, in my head, I had to think, well, you know what? If someone bumps into you, you're not going to fall. You're not going to fall because you know how solid you are now. Because regular people don't think about walking. It's normal. You learned it when you were 1 year old and you've walked your whole life. You don't think about that. But I knew how much space I took up. I knew how solid I was. I knew all of that. And that is self-awareness. So I knew. It took me time because there's all these things that went on in my head during that time. It took me time, but this self-awareness made me so sure of myself, sorry, that I could walk around. I could go to the store. And I've even been, I've been to a comedy show. I've been to, and I won't lie, I don't run into crowds, but I can.
Well, now you can walk in public carrying something.
Exactly. Why? Because I am self-aware. I know I will not knock into people, and I mean that there's a whole thing about what happened to me and all of that, but in general, people don't knock into people. That's not what people do. Okay, that's not what people do. But I mean, now I know, you know what, if someone is whatever on their phone, distracted, whatever, and they do bump into me, I will not fall. But that required self-awareness to
And
change that point
courage.
of view. Yes, courage. But to change that point of view, it required me knowing where I physically, how much space do I take up? How solid am I? What does it look like when I walk? Things like that. And I'm giving this example because I find that it's very telling, because you can imagine yourself walking. Other things are harder to imagine, but that you can imagine. So that's what self-awareness is. You know where you stand, you're more solid. You know how to react to other people. Does that answer your question?
It does. I mean, parentheses for me, it a self-awareness, and the reason I mentioned carrying things specifically is because not only do you know how you are, you also know how to deal with external variables. We don't think about it as currently able people or people without current mobile disabilities, but when you add one bag, two bags, you're shifting your center of balance. You're shifting the
Mireille,
weight.
Mireille, never mind bags. Never mind bags. You have a baby and a
Oh
stroller.
God.
You have a baby and a stroller. It
And I
changes
mean,
everything.
and how many times have I pictured myself while holding my toddler falling?
Take my example is very there's a big image around it. You can imagine it, but this happens all the time. People with toddlers, people with going skiing with skis and poles, people, anything you're carrying. And if you think, and you will think that, oh, I'm just carrying a bag, that's fine. You're just carrying a bag. You don't have to think about it because you've done it many times.
Would you say that what's the impact of self-awareness on your day-to-day life, on your professional life? Like, how does
Um, I'm much more sure. I'm much more solid. I'm much more assertive. And without, assertive does not mean rude. The distinction is important, especially for women. The distinction is important. So I'm much more assertive. I'm much more, in the beginning was when I was talking about my glasses. And Mireille is going to laugh at this forever because I have story upon story upon story, and they're all inadequate stories of the things that people tell me about my glasses. If I didn't know myself so well, if I didn't know my situation so well, if, my response would be different. The effect on me would be different. It would make me feel much more, I would feel inadequate. I would feel like there's a problem with me. There is not. There is not. So, and I'm going to give you an example of the smallest thing that people say. So when people say, oh, what's wrong with your glasses? Nothing's wrong. They're on purpose. Nothing's wrong. They're on purpose.
and it's good
But
when
if
they ask.
that's why I said the smallest thing. So, but if I wasn't self aware, then I'd feel, oh, what's wrong? What is wrong with me? What is wrong? Because as a human being, you don't think what's wrong with my glasses, what's wrong with me? And the sense of um, peace, because you know who you are, you know who you are, you know where you're coming from, you know where you're going. You made decisions based on your values. And so, and especially when you don't follow the norm, especially when you don't follow the norm or what is expected of you, it's really nice and fun to really know why you made those choices, why you went in that direction, why.
It doesn't change the fact that you still have to deal with the realities as you see them, but at least you have that knowledge of the context.
You know that whole thing where you go to bed and you're wondering, oh, did I do this wrong during the day? Should I have sent that email? Should I have said that thing? Should I? That is very much diminished because the minute the question comes up, oh, should I? Well, did it go in the direction of your value? Yes, the end.
And who does the exercise or who does self-awareness
You
benefit?
do. Oh, who does it benefit? Yourself. Well, you know what? Yourself and others. So it benefits yourself in the sense that you know how to move through the world. And I find you can be all that you can be. So whether you're talking, okay, we're going to talk about kindness, about courage, about if you haven't identified that value, you can be kind, but if you're intentional about being kind because you've thought about that value, then your impact is bigger. The way that you approach people is different. The way that you approach situations is different. The choices that you make. For example, I've been a manager for a very long time. The choices that I make for my team, for my employees, are based on my values. They can be values based on my professional life, but they're based on values. So I know where I'm going. I know my choices. I know my intention. I know where I want us to go. I think it's much nicer to have a leader that knows where they're going than someone who's flip-flopping in the wind. And remember, 2 episodes ago, we talked about energy management. That is part of self-awareness. Why? Because you know how far you can go, you know what you can do, and then you can take advantage. Remember, the last thing I said is, I'm at 2, it's lunchtime, I'm at 2, I have a dinner. In regular circumstances, I would cancel the dinner, but no, I'm managing my energy, therefore I can go to the dinner. It's the same thing about self-awareness.
You manage the energy because self-awareness, the exercise behind that, has shown you how much joy you get from doing the dinner.
Yes, so the two things. The first thing is, I know where I am. I know I'm at 2, but I need the self-awareness to be able to evaluate that. Then I know this situation is going to bring me joy. So the two live together and they bring me higher. They give me more joy, more wellness. I think if you had one thing to work on, I think that would be it.